As you look at what was once downtown Cairo, you can see how empty it is. I mean, it's just been completely destroyed. It's really sad. Good. Loves his little boy.
That's good. Here's the bridge, right? The tunnel or whatever?
Yeah. Look at this levee. So this is the big subway gate that they built as a north entrance into Cairo through the levee. And there's a massive gate that weighs tons and tons that will close it in the case of a flood. Supposedly close it. I don't know. I mean, you're counting on that like pretty quick.
Yeah.
During the Civil War, U.S. Grant came to Cairo in September of 1861, just before his first engagement with the Confederates. He left Cairo in early September to secure Paducah, Kentucky, a major strategic city on the Ohio. And then shortly thereafter, he marched south to confront a Confederate camp in Missouri and try to dislodge the Confederates from control of the southern portion of the Mississippi River at Columbus, Kentucky. Hopefully we can follow his trail down south of the Mississippi towards Vicksburg and kind of chart that campaign. A very important campaign in the Civil War.
Yeah, we're getting down. They're tearing down shit.
This house, Thomas, was built by a friend of Grant's.
Which one?
This. He was a hardtack millionaire, basically, you know, like he'd made a bunch of money selling bread to the Union Army. Yeah.
Says tours daily, but I don't think that's still true.
So this town, Cairo, Illinois, has lost 89% of its population over the past 80 years. You can tell just looking down the street. It's actually kind of a interesting story of how it all kind of fell apart, but it obviously was kept alive by the rivers. But as infrastructure developed around it, it became economically less important. There you can see the old streetcar lines that used to run through this part of town. But Cairo, being the first decent-sized city in the very south of a free state, became a home to up to 5% of Illinois' African-American population, about around 1900. So for a town of 15,000 people, it had a huge amount of the diversity in the state of Illinois, which caused a lot of racial tension, considering the town is much more southern than the rest of the state. Nothing here. In 1905, an angry mob took over the city, incensed at the supposed murder of a white lady by a black man. They actually ended up hijacking a train on the Illinois Central Rail to get the guy that they thought killed this woman.
Right up here, this is barred.
They brutally hanged him, shot him 500 times, and decapitated his body. Then, in like a bloodthirst, they went back to the jail and found another guy and killed him. A white guy who was accused of killing his wife the year before. The governor eventually had to send in the National Guard to take back control of the city and enforce the anti-lynching laws. Kind of just shows you how different Cairo was from the rest of Illinois. Speaking of the National Guard, there's this really cool old National Guard building here that's got some kind of suspicious iconography. You can see the fasces, the bundle of sticks. And there is an eagle with two fasces on either side. So it's kind of like that old 1930s Art Deco style of architecture. It's pretty cool. You have these central columns here that are also big, tall fasces with spears. Kind of weird to have a bunch of fascist iconic symbols and stuff on a National Guard building, but you know, the 1930s were a different time. Probably.
Got the abandoned movie theater.
We literally probably could.
This section is still decently occupied. I'm sure there used to be more houses.
I mean, there was just a giant there's an abandoned house right there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, you'll see and it's like, oh, this looks like nice. And then it's like around the corner.
Yeah.
Oh, this gym, yeah, so this gym was part of the original school system of Cairo, and it was actually operated by the Illinois School Board until 2006.
Not a school, it's just a gym.
Yeah,
Looks like it might be a community education
yeah, maybe
center.
that's what it is now, or maybe that's what it was in 2006.
It doesn't look like it's really going in there anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, it has fasces.
1920, yeah.
Is it really?
There are a lot of fascist symbols in this town.
It's like so much. Yeah, literally.
It basically was a bunch of
Yeah.
racists, dude.
Yeah.
In the 1960s, the black community in Cairo organized to try to fight the white power structure, basically, that was dominated by officials and the police. And it resulted in lots of bitter feelings, violence, destruction, shootouts, fires, and eventually a boycott, combined with new bridges and roads that bypassed the city. It was destined for what you see here today. Old abandoned theaters, destroyed buildings. Yeah, the demands of the black people in the projects was basically like, open up city jobs so that black people can get city jobs. Have a black police chief and a black assistant fire chief. They were like, nah, we'd rather watch the fucking city burn down, basically.
When was that demanded?
The 60s.
That was like the real end, right?
Yeah, it was like, that was like, yeah, everything started to tailspin. Then in 77, they built one more bridge, and then in 86, the hospital closed. Yeah, so it's like, and there was
when they built the interstate bridge?
yeah, that's what it was. And there was a decades-long boycott. Like, coming out of the 60s, all the black people were like, fuck, we're not gonna shop at any of these racist white shops, which is like, you know, half of the fucking stores in town. So, okay, well, there goes your economy. I mean, and then you get floods, and it's just, it's over.
But yeah, once you lose like the through traffic, that's huge. That's like a lot of places.
I mean, they're just totally not taken care of in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, you can just visualize.
So yeah, just kind of interesting, kind of, you know, so there's an abandoned house right here out the window. To see kind of these forgotten places in the U.S., you know. This used to be a bustling, kind of promising town at one point, maybe 100 years ago, and it's just faced long, slow industrial decay, racial tensions. Everything is just torn it apart, and it's pretty sad, actually. And it's not much thought about today either, you know. No one really thinks about places like Cairo.